Co-teaching, at least at Hawthorne, and I think elsewhere, is when we have all of our specialists come in and we keep all of our kids inside the classroom, and we get the opportunity to work as a team within the classroom so that all the kids are staying inside our classroom. So we have LIA teachers that come into our rooms. We also have ELL teachers, and then we also have our SPED teachers that all come into our classroom during their times and work with our students. I find it very beneficial having all of the specialists come into my classroom. One of the biggest benefits I find is that we are all on the same page. And so at any point during our collaboration, they come to our collaborations. They also look at, we write up a sheet every week that we share on the Google Docs, and they're able to read through it and look at what we're teaching if they're not able to come to collaboration. But they try to come. And then when we come into the room, we're able to work together to hopefully help these students find success. And what we do, and what I love, is it's for me, decreased a lot of the behaviors, because those transitions are sometimes the hardest part for students. And when you take away those transitions, you have the opportunity for learning to increase and for the behaviors and the management to decrease. And so it's been really helpful because then we have more eyes on the whole group.
With Push-In, we have anywhere between 5 to 7 students in the classroom, and they're all served under a reading or writing disability on an IEP. And I work with the teacher to help make sure their accommodations are in place, to help them out in the classroom, and to also kind of troubleshoot any issues the teacher may run into, and I'm just right there for them to talk to or to email quickly. And then I also work with emailing all of the case managers of those students to let them know what they did that day, what they maybe missed, if they got it done, if they didn't, to kind of help those students stay caught up in those regular English classes. In there, I don't treat them any differently, and I help out all the students that are in there because I want to make sure that our students are not singled out, because they already know they have a disability and they don't necessarily like if people know it as well. So that's kind of my goal, is to help everybody out when they're working on something, to help all students out, and the teachers see that as well. They tell all the other teachers as well, you know, Mrs. Berkey's in here to help everybody. You can ask her, you can ask me if you have questions.
2 teachers working together to meet the needs of students that struggle in math. So it takes so 2 adults so we can reach more students, and then we're sharing the load of the teaching. Grade level material, the core math teacher kind of holds the kind of more of the knowledge of that subject, so she teaches more of it, but as the class goes, I pop in, ask questions, kind of think in terms, and then go around and helping my students, and we both work together to adapt or come up with ways to reach our students easier. It helps more students be able to get grade level material presented at their level, so that we don't have to do as many pullouts where on the resource classes, I mean, they widen the gap for the learning, where this allows them to be getting grade level materials presented at their level. The alternative to this, is pull out, which I also teach those classes, but so the only alternative if we didn't have co-teaching would be that we would have to pull out and try to modify the curriculum at their level, where this is more presented at theirs. They're with their peers. They don't feel like they're excluded.
I have a better understanding of the materials just because I've been doing this for 4 years. I actually started at Whittier as a co-teacher in the special ed department and fell in love with the curriculum, so I moved to math. And so I think it's good that I have the special ed background, and it helps me in the co-taught classroom. But together we plan, we talk about things that we want to do. We have bright ideas that don't always come to fruition. As a classroom teacher, I have to have knowledge of the special ed students, what their accommodations are, and what I need to do. But it's always nice to have that second person in the classroom to come up with different strategies, or maybe they suggest trying it a different way, or when he questions the students, asking them a question in a different way than what I would have thought about asking it. Bouncing ideas off of him, using them together, just something that I don't know if it'll work, talking it through with him. Sometimes he thinks I'm crazy, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So it's nice to have that second, third person, because there's a lot of movement in the morning with different math teachers and talking about what we're doing that day and why we're doing it and how we're doing it. And so it's nice to have somebody who knows our students and to bounce ideas off of them.
Another benefit that I have found that we've done is flexible grouping. So that flexible grouping allows us to take kids that, yes, they might be on an IEP, they might not be on an IEP, but they might need that additional support, and we can put them together. And so there's some days that I might have one of my specialists come in, and they might not be working with the specific child that they're supposed to be working with, based on the fact that we know how many hours each of our students need for the required amount, and we can work together to fulfill those hours. So it's been pretty cool because then we have that opportunity together to work with the kids. And so if I'm not able to get a kiddo to be able to, if they're struggling with their reading and I'm not able to do something to help motivate them, one of my coworkers might be able to do that, and one of my specialists, and vice versa. Sometimes, we'll look at each other and they'll say, oh, we're really struggling here, I'm not sure what we need to do next. I can just go right over there and say, let's try this, and they can do the same for me. So it's been really helpful for us to be able to build that camaraderie, and then those kids don't even know that there's any difference between one from the other. And so it's another day. All the people come in, all the people go out, and they know that more than likely they're going to be working in one of those groups. Mostly for our kiddos who come in who are on an IEP, they have that label. That label can be very scary to parents. The older they get, the kids realize they have a label. But when we have the co-teaching occurring, I don't even know if the majority of my kids who are qualifying for SPED even know that they are. And that's the powerful piece for me, because it's rebuilt relationships, confidence. It's shown them that they are a part of us. They're not any different. And I've been here for 12 years. And so seeing that growth over time and how we've changed, and it's been a positive switch for me. It had to require some growth mindset on my part as well, knowing that there's going to be people in here as I'm teaching. I better be organized. I better have myself ready to go, and it might be a little louder than I typically would expect at a certain time, but the loudness is not them being off task, rather it's more on task. So that's been helpful for me too, because then I can say, yes, I hear them, but at the same time they're on task, they're doing what they need to be doing, they're answering questions, they're recalling whatever we're doing, whether it's reading or writing or math. And so that's been really fun for us to see as well.
We have seen an increase in students' passing rates in these classes where they struggled before, because regular education teachers have almost 100 students probably in a day that they see, and our students are a very small percentage of that. And so by being able to have a teacher in there who's monitoring those students, we can catch them and keep them caught up before they fall so far behind that it's just impossible to get them caught up. It also gives them some confidence and also helps give them some skills, like for me as the freshman English teacher, to kind of get those freshmen on the right path for the rest of high school in order to make sure they start off on a good foot. Some students have to be pulled to be read to, and so I will talk to them privately, like, hey, we got a test coming up. After your teacher gives you your test, come with me, just to leave the room, like to make no big deal of it. They also kind of know I'm the one to go to if they're stuck with something and they're not really sure. So that piece is nice as well, as having that additional person who knows what they're doing. And that works in study hall too. Like all of our students have the same study hall times, roughly between 4th and 5th period. And so if their teacher has no idea what they did, they can send them to us or to me, and then I can help them out, or the teacher will come ask me what they're doing. But students, they know that I know, but then they don't have to say anything about it either, like they're struggling, so I can kind of help them advocate for their needs too.
They're with their peers, they're not being pulled out, they're not like back in the day where they're always excluded, and so getting the label of a learning disability, you're excluded from all your peers. Where here they just feel like they're with everyone else. Most of the people in here, I would say half the students in here don't even know I'm a special ed teacher. They just think I'm another teacher in the room. That's the other perk, is they're learning from the students that math is easier for them. So then the different mindset, the problem solving, kind of hearing from them instead of just hearing from the same group of kids that are all just struggling in math. they do learn strategies from their peers. Because the special ed kids bring a different mindset also, so math might not come easy, but they come up with a different way of thinking of stuff, so it also makes the ones who really get it easy to kind of slow down and rethink, and then they can also teach. So the best way that we know as teachers, if a student can teach it, they really have the material down. So we do allow our students that excel to kind of step back sometimes and help the other students, and kind of a win-win for both.
With the collaboration, it is nice for the lower level students to be able to speak to somebody middle range or higher and bounce ideas off. But I also think that the higher level thinkers, they benefit from the lower students just because they bring in a different idea. So I think they feel more comfortable with each other and they're able to talk to each other. At the school I was at, I had a push-in, and it was my first year of teaching. I didn't know the math curriculum very well, and I was hoping that they would help out more and kind of lead me a little bit or share some of their knowledge. And I think from that experience, it led me to want to co-teach and be part of it, just because two brains are better than one.
For the regular ed students, some of them need that additional support, and sometimes I can pick out, those regular ed students that they might want to consider some additional supports for additional services as well. And they can ask me for my input too. The regular teachers can as well. I like seeing how different teachers teach. Like, that's what a benefit I've gotten out of, like, oh, that's really cool, I want to try that, because we don't get to go out and see other teachers how they teach and just sit and watch them sometimes. And it's built some good relationships between the departments that we've worked with this, because they sometimes have a different perspective on special ed, and then once they're able to kind of see how we work and see what it looks like, it kind of helps them understand how that department works and how we are there to help them as teachers and help their students that are in their classroom as well.
As a special ed teacher, you're coming in and not knowing the material as well as a core teacher because they've taught it for years, or that's all they have. It's depending on how comfortable I am with the material. I jump in more, or I teach, or most of the time I kind of sit back and kind of think about questions that I can ask to kind of help. In particular, my students that are, not even if they're special, just kind of struggling students, what kind of questions should they be asking that they probably don't feel comfortable asking themselves? And I'll raise my hand and ask those questions. It's kind of my main role in going around and kind of observing what they're doing with their work and kind of seeing if they need help and kind of being their voice.
I think the advice that I can give when it comes to co-teaching is just to have that growth mindset and to give it a try. It's scary and a little overwhelming at first. There's still a little hesitation with some here, but we've come a long way in the time that I've been here. But once you get there, you don't want to ever lose it. And so even when we have all of our supports with our reading teachers coming in and our ELL and our SPED, it's just nice because anytime we see each other in the hall, we're able to say, hey, this is what I worked on, this is what I saw with the gains. And we've seen student achievement rise with all of these kids and growth. And our main focus is always growth. And to be able to have that language and that conversation with a variety of teachers, and we're all seeing the same thing, it's been really powerful for us when we see our scores slowly rising. And it's not all about test scores, but it is nice to have that visual to say this is working, so that when we're going, this is a little extra work, we have to make sure we're making time with other people, but at the same time we have that benefit of knowing all the great things that are coming out of it. And these students are feeling like they belong, and they love being in their natural setting, their classroom, and for them to know they're not going to leave and they don't have to leave, and they see a variety of students rotating between the groups. They don't know any different. They think that's just a part of how teaching works. And so it's been really cool to see that happen here.